Boom, nerdlings. Don't you hate it when you have an outage? Absolutely hate it when you have an outage. Yes, it's quite embarrassing at my age when you get to be in your late 50s and your stream gets interrupted. It often happens about 3 times a night. Yeah, it's fascinating. All right, let's have a little bit of a look. Where were we before we were so rudely interrupted by technology? Let's see. All righty, what were we up to? We had enough with the Linux one. Yeah, we know that Linux is great for gaming, but Windows is better for gaming than Linux. Linux has its own benefits, shall we say? Very much so. All right, let's pop over here. There we go. All right, so Russia's space station launch could rule out try again. Russia's space station launch could rule out exploding nuke in orbit. Yeah, very good. Yep, I should think so too. Go away, Miley. Right, Russia's plans to launch a new space station to host cosmonauts and even space tourists from around the world could represent a deus ex machina deterrent to its strategic rocket force, detonating a nuclear warhead in orbit, say defense expert scholars in Washington and London. Well, of course it could. It's the old mutually assured destruction. It's mad. I mean, seriously, come on. I mean, I grew up with the damn Cold War, for God's sake. I mean, Russians don't want their citizens annihilated more than bloody anybody else does. Well, let's have a little look here. Yeah, so ever since American intelligence agencies discovered a top secret Kremlin project to develop a nuclear warhead, warheads that would circle the planet and stalk Western spacecraft, US leaders, defense leaders have been wargaming about how to counter Moscow's new weapons without entering an atomic arms race. Yes, President Vladimir Putin and his security circle have fired off a fusillade of threats to deploy nuclear missiles against any NATO ally directly helping democratic Ukraine defend against Russia's invasion, and the new weaponized spacecraft could be integrated into a larger nuclear offensive, say experts in the Russian military. But Moscow's sending the new Space Lab and Habitat into low Earth orbit would cut the chances of it bursting a nuclear bomb in the same orbital plane. I don't think Russia will use a nuclear ASAT in orbit, barring a direct war with the US or NATO for fear of destroying its own spacecraft along with those of its allies, says Alina Grossfeld, an expert on Moscow's military and civilian space programs at King's College in London. Yep, I can definitely see that. It's just common sense. I mean, the Russians don't want their bloody people nuked either. It just fascinates to me how everyone jumps up and down about this, but it's quite fascinating, isn't it? After Moscow launches its Russian orbital space station, the likelihood of it striking objects in orbit, whether it with conventional or nuclear ASAT weapons, would plummet, says Spencer Warren, an expert on Russia's modernized its nuclear arsenal at the University of California Institute on Global Conflict and Cooperation. Now, as usual, I'll leave the link to the main article below the video so you can pop in, check out the embedded links, go for a bit of a deeper dive. Yeah, orbital path of the Mir space station in a world map. Yeah. So, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense, would it? It's completely ridiculous. Nuclear detonations are indiscriminate in space, and Russian leaders would be well aware of that. So it would make the use of a nuclear device in low Earth orbit increasingly unlikely, Warren told me in an interview. Now, after conducting a series of simulated nuclear explosions in orbit with a wide range of warheads with progressively higher yields, scholars at the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency reported the detonation of 5,000 kiloton warhead near the International Space Station would bring quick deaths to the ISS crew. Yes, the blast, they said, would cause radiation sickness to astronauts within approximately 1 hour, a 90% probability of death within 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, no good. I wouldn't do it. Not good at all. Yeah, another physicist says igniting a powerful warhead above the Earth would destroy the spacecraft, not only in the line of sight of the explosion, but also on. Yeah, good on your technology. That's the way. How do mice work? Yes. If there's any mice on the International Space Station. Not only the line of sight explosion, but also on the globe. Now, Yuri Borisov, head of the Russian space agency, Roscosmos, signed off recently on blueprints to loft the first module of the Russian orbital space. God, I can't even speak. My brain and my mouth are arguing today. The Russian orbital space station in 2027, with cosmonauts sent to operate the outpost half a year later. There we go. Borisov, a one-time deputy defense minister and overseer of the Kremlin's intercontinental ballistic missiles, could be considered an insider to on understanding the extreme dangers of a thermonuclear blast would represent to a nearby space station. Yeah, during a midsummer meeting, the space chief also gave the go-ahead for the development of a next-generation manned spacecraft to augment the time-tested Soyuz capsules that now speed Russian spacefarers to the International Space Station. Yeah, that would be a little bit embarrassing, would it not? It would be rather embarrassing, would it not, if Roscosmos had to go up in a Soyuz and rescue the two astronauts from the StarLemon. Yes, Roscosmos is set to withdraw from the ISS partnership in 2028, and a new orbital outpost could allow it to compete with other leading space powers and prepare for missions to the moon under a pact it has forged with China to co-construct an international lunar research station. The deputy head of Russia's colossal Energia Rocket and Space Corp, Vladimir Solovyov, told TASS state news agency that the orbital feature will be a module for full space tourists who could be connected up with their family and friends back on Earth and with the cyberspace world via Wi-Fi. Now, Solovyov, who is also chief designer for Russia's piloted space systems, predicted that the Russian, which isn't run off green there, by continuously adding new modules and ejecting older ones, could have structural life well into the 2070s. Yes, it's the old axe thing, isn't it? Yes, it's the old axe thing. You know, it's only had 47 heads and 16 new handles, but it's still my grandfather's axe. So we have a space axe, a Russian space axe. Excellent. Now, he added long-living piloted systems in near-Earth orbit could be deployed should be developed, operate as elements of a future interplanetary station. Now, would-be Tsar Putin, oh dear Lord, christened the new station project will cost more than $500 billion rubles as Russia prepares to end its last collaboration with the democratic space powers on the ISS. All these little subtle jabs at Mr. Pooty Poots. It's quite entertaining, isn't it? Always makes me smile. The Russians, from their point of view, we're the bad guys, and from our point of view, the Russians are the bad guys. I find it quite fascinating, to be honest with you. Politics is ridiculous sometimes. Putin clearly pushed Roscosmos director Yuri Borisov to come up with a plan for Russia's next generation space station, says James Clay Maltz, a professor at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey and one of the leading American scholars on advances in space weaponry and diplomacy across the globe. Dear God, I've just looked into that webcam. I am so old and fat, aren't I? That's the camel toe with the neck fat going on and everything. Oh, well, I'm an old nerd. Who cares? Yep, you get that. I'm allowed to look like this when I'm an old nerd. Right, but that doesn't guarantee that he will fund it, he told me in an interview. Much of this discussion seems to be about keeping the appearance of having a robust civil space program rather than actually paying for and delivering one. Gee, he sounds like a politician, doesn't he? Good old Vladimir Putin. Given Roscosmos's declining budget, it seems highly unlikely the station will be built either on time or maybe ever, predicts Professor Maltz, an author of a series of captivating books on competition and conflict involving the great space powers, including the politics of space security. Yeah, that's great coming from the fact that NASA, the US government's just signed up Boeing that's bloody DEI'd its bloody Spaceliner. Fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, great. waste. So Russia won't do it because of a declining budget, and the Americans spend too much money on it, and it doesn't get anywhere. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Now, the declining Roscosmos budget for civil space has several factors. He adds the high cost of the war in Ukraine, a refocusing of Russian space spending to military programs, and the sharp decline in Russia's commercial launch revenues due to its isolation from the West. Yeah, they're building their parallel systems, though. And what we mean by parallel systems is they're teaming up with places like China, India, and Africa. And they're doing a lot of things that way. So it's actually quite entertaining. So they're building parallel card systems when MasterCard and Visa pulled out of Russia, when vehicle manufacturers pulled out of Russia. They're rebadging Chinese vehicles and building them in the Renault factories in Moscow, etc., etc. But there's also a lot of sneaky brands going back into Moscow while it's off the radar at the moment. It's quite fascinating. But University of California scholar Spencer Warren predicts Roscosmos can at some point launch a new station if the Russian leadership thinks it's beneficial for strategic status or economic or political reasons. Maybe it's a stepping stone to some militarized program, or Russia wants a greater space presence to compete with American, Chinese, and Indian increases. Yet he adds that diverting government funds to Putin's all-consuming quest to conquer Ukraine, along with the continual loss of a highly educated workforce, either because they are fighting and possibly dying in Ukraine or because they're fleeing the country, would all delay the liftoff of the Russian orbital station. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kevin. You know, there's a lot of that there, which I think is just plain propaganda themselves. The Russians and the Americans will do it with each other and don't like each other at all. And, we have this public brawl that goes on. It's like 90s with Microsoft and the Department of Justice in America, because they wanted to break Microsoft up because it was too much of a monopoly, and now they're so pally. They got everything. They work together. The software's, Microsoft is ubiquitous in the US government. It's the same as this argument with Google. Department of Justice says Google is now a monopoly, and we're going to have to break it up, which is a complete load of crap because you know full well that Google is too important, along with YouTube, to be used as a propaganda tool. So I mean, they're not going to do it. Meanwhile, while everyone's busy arguing over whether Google's right or Google's wrong, or the American government's right or the American government's wrong, American government and Google are busy having unprotected cyber section bloody behind closed doors. It's fascinating. Let's have a look at this here. What do we got? All right, here we go. We've got the world's first true Spaceliner, inching closer to launch. ISS is its first target. Yeah, this will be interesting from Auto Evolution. Yeah, so this is interesting. That's the Dreamliner. Wow, that's pretty cool. But the world's first new Spaceliner, building on the legacy of the space shuttle and based on a spacecraft design dating back to the 1960s, the Dream Chaser will soon put a new spin on reusability. Yes, taking stuff up to various orbits and then landing just like regular spacecraft do. Well, I certainly hope that it's better than the bloody StarLemon. The Dream Chaser has been in the news and in the works for quite some time now, not in small part because it's a complex machine that comes as a worthy alternative to the reusable or less so capsule-based SpaceX Dragon, Boeing StarLemon, or Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft. Yeah, did a video on the Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft. Elon Musk's big heavy rocket got it up there, and that was perfectly fine. The problem is that once it got disconnected from Uncle Elon's, it decided to have a malfunction. It took them ages to get it to resupply the space station. Not a long time, but there was still problems with it. Elon has problems, but nowhere near as much as the StarLemon and bloody Northrop. It's insane. Yeah, the lifting body design of the Dream Chaser traces its roots back to the HL20. NASA was researching 6 decades ago. It has an overall aircraft shape kind of like the space shuttle used to. That really makes it look like a proper machine for use in space. Who cares what it looks like as long as it works? Bloody hell. I mean, look at me. I don't look like much, but I bloody well work. Though I do get stuck in spaces sometimes. Not space, but spaces. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now, the main reason for the space plane coming into existence is to resupply the International Space Station, or ISS, for the few more years it is allowed to stay in orbit. As such, the first version of the Dream Chaser is being developed as an uncrewed piece of hardware meant to haul cargo. Yes, the thing is 30 feet or 9 meters long and is 15 foot or 4.5 meters wide, and it will be capable of carrying up to 11,500 pounds or 5,200 kilos of cargo. Cargo won't be carried in a single space, but divided between the space plane's own payload bays and attached cargo module the company is calling the Shooting Star. Yes, well, let's hope it's successful. During the first mission to the ISS, the space plane, which wears the name Tenacity, will carry about half that weight, 7,800 pounds, 3.5 kilos, all of it inside the Shooting Star. The mission will also be the first true test of these spaceship's systems, and it means to prove that the concept works. I certainly hope it does better. But Northrop Grumman, yeah, a little bit of a worry, but still, I hope they do well. Initially, Tenacity's first mission was supposed to lift off in spring of this year, but as it usually happens in space exploration, that moment came and went without such a thing happening. A new launch date is not presently set, but the first flight of the Dream Chaser, aided by a ULA Vulcan Centaur rocket, probably won't happen before next year. And meanwhile, Elon Musk has taken half the amount of money from the American taxpayer, and he's taken half the dollars from the American taxpayer, and has been incredibly successful. Fascinating. Now, both Sierra Space and NASA crews are working hard to make that happen, and we heard last week the spacecraft is currently in its final testing and launch preparations phase, with all the action taking place at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Now, the ship has been on location since May inside the Space Systems Processing Facility, or SSPF, the same place where all the components of the ISS were once housed. It is there where the finishing touches are made, but if you think that finishing touches means small adjustments here and there, you're wrong. You know what? No fluffy dice over the rear view mirror in the cockpit. That's a shame. Yeah, hanging on the rear view mirror. Sierra Space and NASA target three main objectives of the work currently being conducted: final assembly and system checks, environmental testing, and pre-launch processing. The first objective means fitting the space plane with the rest of the thermal protection systems that will help it withstand challenges of re-entry. It also means performing propulsion system closeout and leak testing. Environmental tests will require subjecting the spacecraft to electromagnetic interference meant to mimic the ones encountered during flight, and to loud sounds meant to test whether both the ship and its cargo module can survive the noise generated during launch. Yeah, cool. Very cool indeed. Now, upon its return from space, the Dream Chaser will land like an aircraft, and it will do so on the runway of the launch and landing facility, the Kennedy Space Center, the same place the space shuttle used to call home. As I say, I'm not a scientist, not an aerospace engineer. I just love sharing science. Space and tech news. Now, to make sure the landing goes without a hitch, there are tests being performed on the differential braking systems. Last but not least, pre-launch processing means making sure the Dream Chaser is perfectly mated to the carrier's rocket's fairing. That's right, the space plane departs inside the nose of the Centaur, not attached to the side of a booster rocket like space shuttles used to do. Sierra Space targets regular operations from Kennedy from 2026, and it's already enlisted the help of a logistics company called All Point Logistics. New partner will help with reprocessing the reusable space plane on site in Florida. That includes moving the Dream Chaser from the runway to the space prep facility, where it can be inspected, unloaded, and prepped and fly again. Space prep is a new facility that will span 500,000 square feet, or 46,500 square meters, and will include the transportation system to the launch pad. Now, if all goes well with the cargo Dream Chaser, we might later get a version that's capable of carrying astronauts. Until that time, though, the spacecraft will have to complete 7 missions to the ISS as per a contract with NASA. Well, let's hope that works. I really do. because NASA really needs an alternative to the the StarLiner technology, because if they'll go to advance that any further to make it attached to cargo modules and all that sort of stuff, they certainly haven't succeeded. So all I can say is good luck to Northrop Grumman. Yeah. Luck. All right, let's see. What's next on the agenda? Let's see. All right. Here we go. Right, scientists discover where the huge dinosaur killing asteroid came from, a bringer of mass extinction. Oh, wow, look at that. That's really interesting, isn't it? A depiction of a large asteroid impacting Earth some 66 million years ago. That made a bit of a mess. My mum wouldn't be too happy. Now I've got to clean it up, she says. There you go. A menacing asteroid some 6 miles wide triggered Earth's last mass extinction. Now scientists have found out where it originated. Unlike most space rocks that impacted our planet today, this behemoth object came from beyond the gas giant Jupiter. It was a C-type asteroid, which are dark carbon-rich leftovers from the outer solar system, and the impact scattered the fateful object's remains all over Earth some 66 million years ago. Again, not a scientist, just love sharing this stuff with everybody. And I just think it's great if we can get your comments on this. You know, if there are any actual scientists out there, love to hear from you. That's amazing. Great pick. Yes, it was a projectile originating at the outskirts of the solar system and sealing the fate of the dinosaurs. Mario Fischer-Gotter, who researches the origin of asteroids and planets at the University of Cologne in Germany, told Mashable. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting indeed. I just have this mental image of what, and there'll be scientists out there who know more about this than I do. What would have happened if the asteroid hadn't have hit the Earth? Would the dinosaurs have eventually evolved into intelligent beings? Don't know. Hmm. It's interesting to think, and are there planets out there where that never happened, and then similar sort of evolutionary growth may have occurred? Interesting. Fischer-Gotter led the new research, which was published in the peer-reviewed journal Science. As usual, leave the link to the main article below the video, so you can check in these embedded links if you want to go for a deeper dive. The astronaut left quite the asteroid left quite a mark today. This impact zone is called the Chicxulub crater and is largely buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula. The massive object struck in shallow water, blowing prodigious amounts of pulverized rock into the skies, which dramatically cooled the climate. A long, callous winter followed. Photosynthesis shut down. The food chain failed, and around 70% of Earth's species died, though some dinosaurs survived. Interesting. Thin layer of sediment from this event, called the KPG boundary, is found around our planet, and one of the elements in it, ruthenium, is quite rare in Earth's crust, meaning that nearly 100% of the ruthenium, use your words, bitch, in this widespread sediment sheet is from the infamous asteroid. Importantly, the researchers found the ruthenium isotopes, which are different types of ruthenium, in this telltale layer, are similar to carbon-rich meteorites found all over Earth. What's more, the ruthenium samples didn't match the remnants of other major asteroid impacts from which the objects formed in the inner solar system. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Interesting indeed. Yeah. Now, we found that the composition of the asteroid that impacted the Chicxulub is the same that of carbonaceous meteorites, which are the fragments of carbonaceous C-type asteroids that originally formed beyond the orbit of Jupiter. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Oh, good old technology, jumping all over the place. How do mice work? That's because, what do we got? Yep, there we go. Previous research suspected the culprit was a C-type asteroid too, but didn't use ruthenium in the analysis. That's because making these ruthenium measurements is very difficult. And progressive technological advancements made the latest observations possible, Fischer-Gotter explained. Only 3 or so laboratories globally, including the University of Cologne, can conduct ultra-specialized research. The C-type asteroid Matilda is captured by the NEAR spacecraft on June 27, 1997, some 38 miles, 61 kilometers across. That's fascinating. That's interesting indeed, isn't it? Yeah, that fascinates me. I'd love to hear some some astrogeologists and, you know, what their thoughts are on this, because it's absolutely amazing. There we go. A depiction of an asteroid collision that likely led to a mountain-sized rock heading towards Earth 66 million years ago. Absolutely amazing. As the solar system formed, many C-type asteroids came to inhabit the outskirts of the main asteroid belt, a ring containing millions of rocky objects between Mars and Jupiter. Let's see here. Yeah, there he goes. It's here, the 6-mile wide Chicxulub impactor was probably propelled towards the Earth. It was likely triggered by a collision with 2 asteroids, Fisher-Goddard explained, or exposed to sunlight, causing a region on the space rock to heat up and release energy. Could have given the asteroid a nudge, an outcome called the Yarkovsky effect. Interesting. Such a huge collision with Earth, however, is extremely rare. A dinosaur-killing impact from a rock, perhaps half a mile across larger, happens on a 100 million year timescales. Astronomers have already found over 90% of the planet-killer asteroids that times pass near Earth's neighborhood. There's no known threat of a collision from these giant rocks for the next century. The likelihood of an impact in the next 1,000 years is exceedingly low. Meanwhile, impacts by objects around 460 feet in diameter occur every 10 to 20,000 years, an event that would be regionally devastating. Very, very interesting indeed. Yeah. Certainly would break a few things, wouldn't it? Certainly would break a few things. All right, let's have a look at this here. We're just about organized. Let's have a look at this. All right. All right, let's see. What have we got? Okay. No. I know. Go. Sorry about that. Let's have a look. All right, so let's see here. This is on CNN Science. Ancient pot of gold unearthed in Turkey hints at gravest misfortune, researchers say. All right, let's have a little bit of a look here and see what's happening. Oh, yes. So ancient pot of gold unearthed in Turkey hints at gravest misfortune, researchers say. Sorry, such a shit show today, guys. An excavation in Turkey has uncovered a hoard of gold coins known as Persian darics. Is it darics or dariches? From the 5th century BC. Persian King Darius is depicted on the front of a daric above. There he is. Which is not from the discovery. There we go. That's a nice picture, though. All right, so here we go. The ongoing excavation of an ancient Greek city in western Turkey has uncovered artifacts and archaeological remains dating far back as the 5th century BC, including a pot filled with an undisclosed number of valuable gold coins that was hidden away for more than 2,000 years. Researchers have discovered the stash in Notion, an 80-acre fortified city that was occupied from about the 6th century BC to the 1st century AD. Found buried, likely intentionally, beneath the floor of a 5th century BC courtyard house. The fortune could tell the story of an ancient mercenary soldier during those conflict-ridden times, according to a news release from the University of Michigan. That's fantastic, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Yeah, as I say, love to hear from any archaeologists. It'd be absolutely incredible. Love to hear from them and see what their thoughts are on this, because this is just totally amazing to me. I love all science, space, tech. Just think it's fantastic. The discovery of such a valuable find in a controlled archaeological excavation is very rare, said excavation leader Dr. Christopher Ratte, professor of ancient Mediterranean art and archaeology at the University of Michigan and director of the Notion Archaeological Project, said in the release. No one ever buries a hoard of coins, especially precious metal coins, without intending to retrieve it. So only the gravest of misfortune could explain the preservation of such a treasure. Yep, buried it, never came back for it. This includes the typical features of an ancient Greek city, such as a theatre, temples, townhouses, and a marketplace. Notion sat largely untouched and unexplored for thousands of years until about a decade ago, when Arato and a team of researchers began the process of surveying and mapping the visible means of the city, found to be from the Hellenistic era, 323 BC to 30 BC. Yes, good old Helen of Troy. Yes, I always thought there should be a heavy metal band called Greek Meatloaf, and the album could be called Bat Out of Helen of Troy. But I think I'll shut up. All right. But when the researchers started their excavations in 2022, aiming to study the remains not visible above the ground, they made a thrilling discovery. Under the foundation of a large courtyard townhouse from the Hellenistic era, were the remains of an older house with pottery fragments within its walls dating to the 5th century BC. According to the release, the researchers then found a hoard of coins, buried beneath the floor of the older house. Interesting. The artifacts tell the story of those residing in the city, not just during the period between Alexander the Great's reign and the Roman Empire, but also of hundreds of years earlier, when tension was high between the Greek civilization and the Persian Empire. That's very interesting. Are there any classics people out there, ancient history experts? Just let us know your thoughts on that, because that's absolutely incredible. I'm just topping up my caffeinations. I definitely need caffeine. I didn't sleep well last night. Didn't sleep well at all. All right, so Persian derricks for a soldier. The newly found coins are from the reign of the Persian Empire, 6th century BC to about 330 BC, and are known as Persian derricks for the kneeling archer on the front of the coin that depicts Persian King Darius. Like most ancient coins from the 6th to the 4th century BC, the currency does not have dates on it, posing a challenge for researchers looking to pinpoint when it was produced, said Peter Van Alphen, chief curator at the American Numismatic Society. It was not part of the excavation. Several enormous hoards of derricks have been found in the past, numbering thousands of coins, but these were not found by archaeologists. So the coins were dispersed, and the hoard context was lost forever, said Van Alphen in an email. The fact that this derrick board was found in a controlled archaeological excavation is rare. The archaeological context of this hoard could provide an absolute dating peg for certain types of derricks. So we've got a bit of cross stuff here. We've got archaeology, we've got some ancient history, and some numismatics, some coin collecting. Yes, for around the 200 years the coins were in production, they had minor stylistic changes that researchers have attempted to put in a chronological order, Ate said. Discovering coins alongside external dating evidence allows scientists to understand how this coin has a high intrinsic value for the time. It's unclear what exactly the valuable coin was used for, but one guess is it was a way of paying mercenaries, said Van Alphen. A gold coin would have been the equivalent of a month's salary for a mercenary soldier, according to the University of Michigan. Silver coins were commonly used for daily expenses, such as going to the store. They were known as Persian silver sigloi, 20 of which would equate to one gold coin. The fact that this hoard was found in a house suggests that whatever the intended purpose for producing those derricks, they were being used in this case as a store of wealth, Van Alphen said. Because of the gold's high value, it was far more efficient to store wealth in gold than in silver. That's fascinating. As for why the owner never returned to retrieve the gold, Ratter proposed it could be indicative of Notion's place as a frontier between the Greek civilization and Persian Empire during centuries of conflict. Several scenarios could have led to the coin's abandonment, he suggested, including one in 427 BC when an Athenian general attacked and massacred a group of mercenaries for Persia. Another such clash occurred during the end of the 5th century BC when the Spartan navy defeated Athenians in battle and they had to evacuate the city, he added. It's also possible the case could have belonged to some prosperous citizen hoping to one day live like a king, such as the enormously wealthy Pythias, ancient Greek architect who had some 4 million derricks in his coffers, as recounted by Herodotus. There you go. It tells you much of an ancient history person I am, said Van Alphen. 4 million Darricks. Geez, he must have been a wealthy boy. God, he must have had a couple of coins in his pocket. Far out. Yeah, inflation wouldn't have bothered him. All right, and what's the last one we've got up here on the docket? Let's have a quick little look. Right, let's just have a look at this one. What's this one? Ah, yes, potential evidence of life discovered on Mars by NASA's Perseverance rover. Yeah, this is very interesting. I think I covered this in a standalone video, but it's quite fascinating. Yeah, Perseverance rover, a six-world geologist, found a fascinating rock and had some indications that may have hosted microbial life billions of years ago, but further research is needed. Yeah, NASA's Perseverance rover has discovered an intriguing rock on Mars named Chayava Falls, showcasing potential signs of intelligent life due to its unique chemical signatures and structural features. This finding, supported by the presence of organic compounds and distinct color patterns suggestive of microbial activity, fuels ongoing research to determine Mars's habitability. This is fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, discovery of Chayava Rock, Falls Rock. Yeah, in a vein-filled rock is catching the eye of the science team at NASA's Perseverance rover, named Chayava Falls by the team. The arrowhead-shaped rock contains fascinating traits that may bear on the question of whether Mars was home to microscopic life in the distant past. There's leopard spots on a reddish rock named Chayava Falls. That's fascinating. Yeah. Wow. So if there are any scientists in the chat, let me know, because I'd love to hear from astrogeologists, astrophysicists, yeah, even aerospace engineers. I just said I find all science fascinating. Analysis by instruments aboard the rover indicates the rock possesses qualities that fit the definition of a possible indicator of ancient life. The rock exhibits chemical signatures and structures that could possibly have been formed by life billions of years ago, when the area being explored by the rover contained running water. Other observed, dear oh dear, observed features are being considered by the science team, and future research steps will be required to determine whether ancient life is a valid explanation. Look at that. There's the leopard spots. Wow, it's incredible. Yeah, so sample collection and exploration strategy. The rock, the rover's 20 core sample, was collected on July 21st as the rover explored the northern edge of Neretva Vallis, an ancient river valley measuring a quarter mile, 400 meters wide area that was carved by water, rushing into a Jezero crater long ago. We have designed the route for Perseverance to ensure that it goes into areas with the potential scientific samples. Fox, Associate Administrator, Science Mission Director at NASA headquarters in Washington. This trip through the Neretva Vallis riverbed paid off, as we found something we've never seen before, which will give our scientists so much to study. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Look at that. NASA's Perseverance used its Mastcam 7 instrument to show the Chayava Falls rock sample within a little bit. Scientists believe markings on the rock contain fascinating traits that may bear the question of whether Mars was home to microscopic life. Oh, good on you. There we go. Huh. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Multiple scans of Chayava Falls by the rover's Sherlock, scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals instruments, indicate it contains organic compounds. While such carbon-based molecules are considered the building blocks of life, they can also be formed by non-biological processes. Chayava Falls is the most puzzling, complex, and potentially important rock yet, investigated by Perseverance, said Ken Farley, Perseverance project scientist of Caltech in Pasadena. On the one hand, we have our first compelling detection of organic materials, distinctive colourful spots indicative of chemical reactions that microbial life could use as an energy source, and clear evidence of water necessary for life once passed through the rock. On the other hand, we've been unable to determine exactly how the rock formed and to what extent nearby rocks may have heated Chayava Falls and contributed to these features. Yeah, I did a standalone video on the channel. We found massive amounts of, looks like, underground water on Mars. Yeah, absolutely, very deep, in the deep within the planet itself. But I love how the article turned into an Elon Musk bashing session. That billionaire will never be able to get to that water. Oh dear God, made me smile. And I said, well, if we could go down 20 kilometers, with a drill, I'm sure. I mean, Antarctica. How far do their drills go down? We can do it in Antarctica. We can do it on Mars. Elon will do it. Speaking of Uncle Elon, there's a picture of him. He's been listening. He's listening in on the interzones. Other details about the rock, which measures 3.2 feet by 3.2 feet by 2 feet, 1 meter by just over half a meter, and was named after a Grand Canyon waterfall, have intrigued the team as well. Look at that. That's a selfie by the Mars rover, made up of 62 individual images on July the 23rd. Yeah. It's to the left of the rover in the center of the image. That might be there, I think. Good old selfie. Fascinating. Selfie was originally an Australian expression, apparently. I thought that was interesting. How rocks get their spots. I hope they haven't got monkeypox. In this search for signs of life, ancient microbial life, the Perseverance mission has focused on rocks that may have been created or modified long ago by the presence of water. That's why the team homed in on Chayava Falls. This is the kind of observation that Sherlock was built for, to seek organic matter, as it is an essential component to search for past life, said Sherlock's principal investigator, Kevin Hand of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, which manages the mission. Now, running the sulfate veins, between those veins are bands of whose reddish color suggests the presence of hematite, one of the minerals that gives Mars its distinctive rusty hue. Wow. That's very impressive. Gotta love a live stream for a good cough. Anyway. There we go. Shows the dark hole where NASA's Perseverance took a core sample. The white patch is where the rover abraded the rock to investigate its composition. A rock nicknamed Steamboat Mountain on the right shows an abrasion patch. This image was taken by Mastcam Z on July 23. So there we go. There's where the little drill went in for the rover. Interesting stuff. Unusual mineral patterns and their implications. Now, when Perseverance took a closer look at red regions, it found dozens of irregularly shaped millimeter-sized off-white splotches, and each ringed with black material akin to leopard spots. Perseverance's Pixel planetary instrument for X-ray lithochemistry instrument has determined the black halos contain both iron and phosphate. That is awesome. Yeah, I 1976, and I was a kid at the time, and watching the Viking land, talking about the Viking landers and everything else, and I was just transfixed to the television. I just couldn't believe it. It was just so cool. Absolutely love it. Australia, hooray! That's one of our boys. On Earth, these types of features in rocks are often associated with the fossilized records of microbes living in the subsurface. That's amazing. Oh, come on. Don't you love technology during a live stream? It decides to go off on its own. Absolutely fascinating. What is going on? There's nothing like a shit show, is there? Oh, goody, goody, goody. There we go. Oh, hello. Here we are. Ah, yes. Dear, oh dear. Oh, well, that looks like it's decided to have a coronary on me. Look at this. I'm not even touching anything. Absolutely fascinating. Oh, don't you love live streaming? Oh, where are we? Is it calmed down enough now for me to actually use it? Looks like it. Okay, there we go. I think the people who who designed this internet browser are the same people who designed the StarLemon. Fascinating. There you go. Mission overview. The NASA Perseverance rover, a cornerstone of the Mars 2020 mission, is tasked with a groundbreaking exploration focused primarily on astrobiology. Its primary mission is to search for signs of ancient microbial life, paving the way for future missions. I keep thinking of that browser jumping up and down. It's definitely got to be bloody made by Boeing. Its primary mission is to search for ancient signs of microbial life, paving the way for future human missions by thoroughly characterizes geology and climate. This sophisticated rover is the first of its kind, designed not only to study the Martian surface features, but also collect and cache samples of rock and regolith. These samples are intended to be retrieved and brought back to Earth under NASA's Mars Sample Return Program, MSRP. I thought they'd come up with a better acronym than that, you know. Anyway, in collaboration with European Space Agency ESA for comprehensive analysis. This ambitious mission is an integral part of NASA's broader Moon to Mars exploratory strategy, which also includes the Artemis missions to the Moon. These lunar missions serve as a preparatory step towards the ultimate goal of human exploration of Mars. Perseverance rover itself is managed by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, operated by Caltech, ensuring a top-tier oversight and execution of its operation of the Martian surface. The strategic approach aims not only to uncover the mysteries of Martian life and history, but also to lay the groundwork for the next giant leap in human space exploration. Well, that is absolutely fascinating. That is very, very interesting indeed. Yeah, so that is very good. I'm very impressed with that. That's potential evidence of life discovered by NASA's Perseverance rover. So now we've discovered all the water. We can water under the surface of Mars. We can start making, start planting things. Yeah, that was a fascinating discovery. Apparently, they found out by measuring seismic waves, and it was similar on Earth. That those we could tell that there was the seismic waves were going through a liquid of some description. Apparently, it's quite a large ocean too. Well, there we go. Well, there we go for our second live stream for Studio 64 Productions for Science, Space, and Tech News. Yeah, it was a bit of a glitch there, and the stream dropped out. But guess what? We battle on. So apologies for that. This is part 2. But go back and have a look at the other one. I think it drops out after about the 30-minute mark or something like that. But you know what? You get that, and I'll see you all in the daily videos, and then we can catch up next Saturday as well. But let me know if this is a good time for you guys in the stream, because I'd really like to know. We'll leave a comment after the video. All right, guys, take care. I got to go. I have to go and see a man about a horse. Not the same as Tim Waltz and his horses. All right, bye. Fare thee well.
A most fascinating thing happened.